gentlemen. Joining us now to break down the case, attorney Ron Chapman. Ron, great to have you. Let's start with the million-dollar question here. Did the prosecution, in your view, successfully make their case, connect all of the dots specifically on those racketeering charges? And what do you see as the greatest weaknesses heading into a new week with these deliberations now set to begin?
The government did not connect the dots the way they should have. In fact, what they did was they doubled down on the arson and kidnapping allegations, which I think, based on the cross-examinations, were just absolutely trounced by the defense team. They did a fantastic job with that. And so, lacking that, they tried to put as strong of an argument as they could together. But what they really are resting on is, if you don't like Diddy's personality and you don't like what he did, then you should convict. That's not enough for a racketeering case. That's not enough for the elements of the offenses here. That being said, these types of prosecutions have been successful in the past, where they are able to throw enough muck at the defendant in order to get some people to not like him. We'll see what the jury does here, but the defense not putting on any witnesses certainly didn't help their case at all.
Yeah, I certainly want to, well, I do want to ask you about that strategy. But how might narrowing those racketeering charges factor in to all of this in a verdict?
Oh, sure. So the trial is all about credibility. And when the prosecution made those arson charges or allegations, as well as the kidnapping, center stage, what they really did was they said, this is really the linchpin of what our argument rests on. But then we started to hear information about the lack of investigation related to arson. We started to hear that the kidnapping wasn't really a kidnapping, and the person who was involved, the employee, was relatively free to leave. And I think when those fall apart, what the prosecution has to do is narrow the scope, take away that information to keep their credibility alive, and get to the jury with something less than that.
So let's go back to what you had mentioned before, the defense wrapping up in just 20 minutes. Some saying this speaks to extreme confidence. It sounds like you had a different take. What was your read?
Oh, absolutely. I've tried a whole bunch of cases, and the one thing is true in all of the acquittals that I've had: we call witnesses. We call witnesses to chase the government's theories down in every corner that they exist and root them out so that we can close the case strong. The defense attorneys often say we don't want to make it worse, we're confident in our cross-examination, but juries like stories and they like narratives. They don't just like burdens of proof. The judge's instruction that you need to hold the government accountable is largely going to fall on deaf ears if the jury has a story that they want to attach to. That's why you need to call witnesses. And what I would have done is attack these RICO allegations to show all the good that those companies did. All the people that got record deals, all of the people that were able to make money and become successful employees of the business, to show that that had really nothing to do with the business, and that was Diddy's private life.
So as we look ahead, another legal expert weighing in on this network mentioned this July 4th holiday will light a fire under the jury, prompt a faster verdict. What say you?
Well, I agree 100%. We see that often in cases, sometime around lunchtime, right before they're supposed to be released for the July 4th holiday. Certainly, it could be a verdict. That being said, if we have a holdout, if we have a big split, and I'm not talking 11-1, I'm talking maybe there's 4 jurors, 5 jurors that are holding out, they certainly will go over. One thing I know about juries, and I've seen them often, they take their time and they try to do the right thing. They will take as much time as they need to, and I need to get home for a celebration or something like that. It may put a little subtle pressure behind them, but it's not going to get them to bend on their morality just to make a decision and get out of there.
Well, that's great to hear. I wanted to ask you quickly, Combs, if he walks away from this trial, his legal trouble isn't over. As you know, he's facing several civil cases. We've got about 30 seconds left, but how might a verdict here factor in moving forward?
And the shocking thing about this case is that Cassie Ventura has already earned $20 million from her civil case. There may be other civil cases that are spawned, and certainly there are some that are in process. I know a bunch of them were dismissed right before this trial. That being said, I wouldn't want to be Diddy right now. People are going to pile on with lawsuits regardless of what the verdict is, just like we saw in the O.J. Simpson case. Civil verdicts can happen even if there is an acquittal, but certainly they will happen if there is a conviction for Sean Combs. I'd expect probably about 3 days of deliberation, and I expect we would have a verdict.
All right, we'll be watching. Attorney and legal analyst Ron Chapman, great breakdown. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.